So the one I was talking to you about was really funny, and after it was all over, it just reminded me of the saying that you keep saying that you can't say the right thing to the wrong people and the wrong thing to the right people. Because this guy calls me up. I had no idea who I was talking to. And he says, I got your letter. So I'm thinking that he got the recent expired out of my expired list. I sent 5 letters because I didn't have what I thought was a good email and
Sure.
I couldn't call them.
Yep.
So I sent 5 letters. So I'm thinking during the conversation, that's what he's talking to me about. And he started it out by saying, I'm not really interested in selling that property. Okay, fine.
Sure.
So we talked on and on. Come to find out that this guy is actually an investor, and that. So what I want to say is the whole conversation was disjointed because I had no clue what was really going on. So he proceeds to tell me that he's got these properties and he actually has a crew and he does fix and flips, and they're involved in a project right now and they're not really looking for anything, but he would be open to looking again in April or May. And I think, fine, that's great. I get off the call and I'm like, I have got to figure out who this guy is.
Right. Right now, I got odds in reverse. Wait, how did
Yeah.
this? Yeah.
Yeah. Where is this guy? Believe it or not, after going through all these decks that I have out there, this guy was in my gifted deck. I sent him the letter on January the 2nd.
He was on your seller gifted deck, obviously, because you sent a letter. You wouldn't have
Yes.
sent a letter to the buyer.
Yes.
And
He,
interesting. And the
yeah.
letter was what?
Oh, the letter was just like, "Are you considering selling?" It was just the standard verbiage that you use. If I brought you a fair offer, da da da. Yeah. So I'm like, what? How did that happen? Anyway, but it was a cool thing. So he said, "Do you have anything?" So I went back to the one off market property that I have, and I said, "I have something, but we had talked. This is a little bit above your price range that
Yeah.
you want to pay." And he's, "Oh, send it to me anyway." So I send it to him. Last night he gets back to me and he said, "Can you check on the timeline on that? I have some other investors that I work with, and we may be interested in going in on that deal together."
You never know. You just
You
never know.
never know.
Gotta
You
ask.
never know. It is, it was just a very strange thing, but I just had to laugh.
Yeah. Oh, and you may have already thought of some of this stuff, but as you're sharing that story, and I'm thinking about if it were me and I was in that situation, and maybe you've already done this, but number one, I would definitely add him to, if you're still using Bold Trail or Lofty or whatever, I would add him in there. The address I would put would be his primary residence. For me, I would add into my monthly AI postcard so that at a minimum, he's seeing my name and face and just reminding him that I'm still here to help, regardless of what happens on that one deal or whatever.
Right.
And then obviously, I hope it works out on the one off market. But even if it doesn't, at some
Exactly.
point, there's going to be some opportunity there with him.
Yeah, plus the fact that if he worked with a group of investors.
Opens the door to more. And
Yeah.
I'll share a story this morning. I was supposed to go look at this house this afternoon. The children are selling it. Dad passed away. It's been vacant a while. And he texts me at 4:20 this morning. Our car won't start. Our car won't work. We need to reschedule. And I said, fine, no big deal. And I think I actually mentioned this. This is the property I was talking about yesterday on the Closers Cafe, where I was going to use that as a way to, or I was going to do the work to create results in advance on their behalf. So I did start to reach out to the cash buyers. And also, I already have somebody that I got using LeadDeck, using the cash buyer target in particular, who bought one with me, a bank owned property in the general vicinity. And I called him this morning. I said, hey, Ben, I know you just bought one. I'm not expecting you to be interested. But number one, you'll probably be near the property at some point because I know like his work, anyway. And number two, the last time I talked to him at settlement, it was very clear that this fella that you're describing, he knows a lot of other people that do this.
Right.
So I said, I'm not expecting you to be able to, or ready, willing, and able to take something else on, but you probably know somebody who would be interested. And so I figured I'd throw it out there. I'll give you the address. In fact, I forgot to text him the dang address now that I'm thinking about it. But you just don't know who they know and whatever. And if you're just curious, you listen, you ask good questions. And I'm always, who do you know? I'm not assuming anything I'm bringing
Right.
to anyone is going to be the thing for them, but people, who does this sound like it would be a good fit for?
And when I do get other things that I want to present to people, he would be a great one. And I would say, do any of your other investor friends, do you think they'd be interested in it? I immediately thought of that too. Like,
Yep.
what a great segue. And then yesterday I did the tap to text and tap to email to sellers. I picked tired landlords and vacant. And this guy's, his were all tenant owned, but whatever. So he called me back and
Most likely it showed as vacant because one of them probably turned over and it was a window big enough that US Postal Service couldn't deliver mail for some window because most likely the tenant didn't do the exiting tenant probably didn't do a mailing, whatever. So it's imperfect, but who cares?
who cares?
Conversation.
Yeah, yeah. That was my point. I could care less whether or not, but I'm just telling you, that's what I searched for.
Sure. And
And
for those, so because I'm obviously recording this, I wanted to share. One of the benefits of that is it gave you a small bucket so that it's not
yeah,
overwhelming. It's like a small list of people that I feel, okay, I can accomplish doing the work with this little bucket in the next 30, 45, 60, 75 minutes, whatever. But whatever time block I have, I can work through it versus if I've got 185 of these people, I'm like, oh, where do I even start? Who do I, whatever.
and there were 9 of them.
Yeah.
There were 9 of them, and I've set that as part of my goal every day is I'm gonna reach out to 9 to 10 every day, tap to text, just
That's
gonna
great. As for one-page action plan, 10 a day,
yep,
10 a day
yep.
compounded over a week, over a month, over a quarter, over a year, and it'll just keep stacking on itself. The conversation you had, was it from a direct call or was it a text or an email or
He didn't have his email, wasn't even on there, it was
yeah.
from a text.
Okay.
And I went ahead and it was not on the do not call.
Okay.
But so this guy calls me up and he says, and I guess it's another lesson in timing is everything. You just never know. He had been trying to look at this property that another EXP agent had that would not call him back. He was disturbed by this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, well,
Rightfully so.
yeah, I get you. I understand that. And he didn't want to sell the property that I had that came up on LeadDeck, but he has another one that he wants to sell. And he eventually would like to get rid of all of them. He has 4 other ones. And he wanted to sell his own home property and then buy this other one. Unfortunately, probably the reason she didn't get back to him, but she could have been nice about it and told him is that it had pended. He was
I
just
mean,
trying to call off the
that
side.
that's a completely different topic.
But
I
it
mean,
would have
what
been, I
if that's the
apologize to him.
reason? If that's the reason, just silly.
I know.
Because one of the questions anytime I get an inbound lead on one of my listings, unless it's very obviously a listing that there's no, like if I have an $800,000 single family listing, I'm not going to ask, is this going to be your primary residence or are you looking for an investment property? But if it's a property that could be, I always ask, are you interested for yourself, like to live in as your primary residence, or are you an investor? Her following up with that fella would have turned into other options if she had just returned the call and been curious and asked questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. So I figure since you're an EXP, you'd know this person and she'll talk to you. And I'm like, I wanted to say, not necessarily.
yeah, yeah.
But anyway, so I did get the information back to him. I have not heard back, and I gave him some information then on the one property that he did want to sell too. But I will
So
put
he
him
is
in.
both looking to buy and potentially sell, if I'm understanding correct.
Yes, yes. Plus the fact he wants to get out of, he owns duplexes. He wants to get out of the rental business and move on. And I know I know what he's looking for in a home. You
So
know,
I want to unpack this real quick. So you created a deck, seller target, tired landlord, and vacant stacked together.
correct.
9 of them. One conversation. He owns multiple. Eventually, he will sell multiple. He also has it is potentially going to buy. And now it's just a matter of you playing go fish, finding the cards to match up and make it
Right.
make sense. And juxtapose that against the amount of time and effort it takes to find one retail buyer or seller that maybe turns into one thing. It's why
There's no amount of time. It takes no amount of time to do that.
yeah.
It just doesn't. And I was like, I'm going to do this every single morning. I'm going to make myself do. I did this morning because I had that crazy 8 o'clock showing, but
Yeah, and I would say for most folks, if you want to commit to 5 days a week, I think 4 days a week is a more reasonable goal because of what we do.
Monday through Thursday.
Meaning, yeah, I think Monday through Thursday to me, because Friday that can be if something happened, if life happened, you can use Friday as the makeup day. Number one. Number two, we are in a business where sometimes we have to drop everything because, like you had this morning, client work is how we actually get paid. And so that's going to happen sometimes, or it's sick or whatever. It's stuff, life happens. So
Right.
I like to set reasonable goals. And to me, 4 days a week, a block of time, 60 to 75 minutes. And you mentioned targets of 9 or 10, and really committing to like doing everything you can to actually get yes or no. We don't care. We just want a we want to close the loop. We're reaching out. We don't want to just be hanging there. Yes, I'm interested. No, I'm not. Who cares? But when you talk to folks like what you described, folks that we know own multiple properties, including their primary residence, they usually have something going on or they know somebody who does.
And I think your other comment too is about some of these investors, like that first guy that from the letter from January 2nd, he
Yeah.
can't help himself.
Yeah.
He had to come back and say, maybe I could get my group of investors together and we could go in on this property and that it, because it was above his price range.
I think this was on the deal sprint, but I called a guy and I screwed up. A man answered, and I was calling, I think cash buyer.
Yes, yes, or female.
And
Yeah.
it said Mary and Paul, and a man answered, and I was like, Mary? So I call him back. It's Paul, and same thing. I've got these rentals, we manage them, and I do the maintenance, and we've got some good tenants or whatever. And then 30 seconds later, he's like, okay, why, what's the deal that you called me about?
Yeah.
Now he
Right.
ended up not being interested, but like you said, they can't help them. Like they're just curious. And I'm sure I could have done a better job on that call on a number of fronts. But I did ask him, do you have any that you wish you didn't have right now? And he's like, I've got some good tenants right now. And so not really looking to do anything. But I have since added him, like I described that with the fellow with the letter. He's in my CRM with his primary residence. I put him on my monthly follow up. And at some point, he'll have something that he wants to sell or maybe want to buy or consolidate or whatever.
So when you say monthly follow-up, do you like go ahead and email them I email at least 2 to 3 times a week to basically my whole group of people, or do you just make it investor-oriented follow-up?
So in that scenario, the main three things that they're going to get is the monthly postcard, AI postcard with thanks. Number two, a market report for whatever their city, zip code, or it could be township, borough, whatever is most relevant related to their primary residence. Because they're in real estate, they're curious about real estate. Everybody
Right.
pretty much is, right? So that's another touch point that is very congruent and relevant to them based upon where they live. And then for me, I just send everybody my deal of the week email.
Right.
So everybody gets that. So weekly, they get that. Monthly, they get a postcard and an emailed market report. And then my direct outreach is going to be when I find something and I go and search in my phone or in my CRM and find, oh, Paul might be interested, or Paul might know someone who might be
Right.
interested.
I just thought that was just so odd. I think it wasn't a postcard, it was a letter, but it backs up the idea, give them something to hold. If he hadn't have had that letter and
It's an
he had
artifact. I heard
he
somebody
kept it.
describe when you
Yeah.
send mail, it's like an artifact. I love that word association with it because there are people, when you send them mail, they'll put it on their refrigerator or they'll put it in a pile, and at some point they come back to it. I heard a great story recently. I forget who was telling the story, but I think it was a real estate investor, not an agent, but story is relevant either way. And actually, this would be good to add to direct mail a note that if you're not interested right now, please hang on to this letter because at some point it might change. Something along those lines, and you could craft that. But I heard a story of someone, they had sent a letter, like 5 or 6 years later, the person had passed away and they had put the letter in their like important files.
Oh
And
my
when
God.
the family was going through their files, they found the letter, called the person, and that person ended up buying the property because that letter was an artifact that they hung on to long enough that at some point they came back to it. And for those that missed it, you sent out 10 letters, got the one call. Now that is certainly not a
Yeah.
guarantee of future performance, but
Yeah.
that's pretty incredible to
Right.
send out.
And my letter did say to hang on to it.
Bravo.
That was the PS.
That's
Not that
perfect
people
though.
do what they're
Hey,
told.
if this isn't the right time, please hang on to this or put this in a safe place and call me if or when anything changes. So,
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. So
love it.
anyway, I was just pretty excited and I was just like, this is so weird.
I appreciate
It
you being
doesn't happen.
open to sharing and kudos on taking action. And
I
I
mean,
think just if by here's what at least I have experienced. You start putting in those time blocks And you'll get to a point sooner than later that it's like the old well pumps that used to have to pump. You'll get to a point where you only will have to do those time blocks when you need to
That's called priming the pump.
priming the pump.
Sure,
So
old people know that.
okay, there you go. So you prime the pump, and then you will get to a point where just every once in a while you got to hit it again because you'll have so many cards in your hand that it on a day-to-day basis, it's just who am I matching up today? Who are we putting together and seeing what can happen versus having to do the cold or colder outreach on a regular basis.
Yeah, and the other thing too is I'm really looking forward to the rest of my day because I have something solid to do that I know is income producing,
Yeah.
as opposed to just
Not wondering or chasing something that you're
throwing stuff out there.
hoping.
Yeah.
Totally.
So anyway, it was fun. It
Well,
is.
I'm glad that you're seeing success and that you're taking action, and I'm sure there'll be much more good stuff to come.
And I know the one guy that called yesterday is out of 9. That was crazy, but it doesn't happen immediately for some people like me. Like I was like the rest of my set. I keep contacting these people. I keep doing this. I've actually been making phone calls and nothing's happening. And then just all of a sudden, and I think a lot of it was the fact that it was the holidays.
Sure.
When I first started, and then people, it takes them a while to survive that and to get back into the swing of things. And I think now's a perfect time for it to rock and roll.
Yep. And for those, depending on where we pick this up, it's also 0 degrees in both of our markets right now. And the reality is some people are just like, I just don't want to be cold. I'll just hunker down for a couple of weeks until the sun comes out and thaws things out a little bit. And yet we shouldn't stop doing the work because we're still like that work will compound. Sometimes it's shorter. Sometimes it takes longer. Stephanie, I've told her story a couple of times. I'm going to wrap with this. It was starting to click for her. She found an off-market deal, but then still was like, I don't know, I'm missing something. I said, Stephanie, there are 17 multifamily buyers in that zip code. Call, text, and email all 17. She called and texted 4, and 3 of them in an hour gave her multiple deals that are either listing opportunities or deals that she may even participate in, etc. So sometimes you can get it in a short window. Sometimes it takes a little bit more time to get traction. Sometimes the priming of the pump is fast, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I think you need to get over the limiting belief, which I have had, was that, oh, these investors, they already know a bunch of agents. Well, they might, but this bunch of agents might not be doing anything.
They also appreciate the hustle, though. Most
Yeah.
of them appreciate the hustle. And if they see you hustling, they actually like that. They appreciate that.
And trying to help them and trying to do so,
Totally.
actually creating something for them.
Working on their behalf before you even know them. Because that's when you're bringing them an opportunity, you're working on their behalf before you ever had a relationship, responsibility, representation, or anything.
So anyway, thank you.
Thanks for sharing, Susan. I hope you have a great weekend, and
it's
I'm
gonna
sure
be
I'll see you
cold
next
again.
week. Yeah,
It's going to be cold again.
I know.
All right.
Sooner than later. At some point, it'll get warmer.
See you, Josh.
Thanks.
Bye.